again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave and this is another video talking about effect pedal orders, how we sequence our effects pedals and what impact that makes on the overall sound. I've done a few of these videos and on one of them somebody left a comment asking about using an EQ pedal. Now I don't actually have an EQ pedal, well, I didn't until last weekend when I went to a guitar show. I was looking around there and there was a cheap one. I thought, yeah, I'm going to get that and use it to make this video. Just warn you before we get started, this is one of those videos where I will be doing quite a lot of talking. I get a lot of hate in the comments about talking rather than just playing guitar. The point of these videos is they're meant to be explaining things and I can't do that without talking. So if that's not your thing, please feel free to scroll away. If you do want to hang around and learn something, then let's get into it. Here's the pedal that I picked up. So this is just a little bit of a cheapie, but it's a chord 5-band graphic equalizer. It's fairly typical of what you would expect to find in a graphic equalizer pedal. We've got various slider controls which allow us to change the volume of individual frequency bands within the signal. Now what's interesting about an EQ pedal rather than just say the tone control that you've got on your guitar, generally speaking, if you've got passive pickups like most of us have got on our guitars where there's no active electronics within the guitar itself, the tone control on the guitar is a very simple low pass filter or high cut filter. High cut, low pass is basically the same thing. What's happening is when you adjust the control, it's filtering out how much treble makes it through. So on 0, lots of treble is being filtered out and only the low frequencies are coming through. Turn it all the way up and you're opening it up to allow the higher frequencies through as well as the low frequencies, and you get the full range, or some point in between. But it's just a simple filter. It's cutting out the treble that's in the signal. Now an EQ pedal is a lot more flexible for two reasons. Firstly, it allows you to control individual frequency bands. So this one is a 5-band equalizer. You will see 7, like the Boss GE7, I think it's like a fairly iconic EQ pedal. You'll find pedals with different numbers of bands. The more bands, the more fine-grained control you've got over the sound. But here we've got 5 frequencies from low through to high, and we can boost or cut. So the sliders have got a little notch in the middle. As we go down, we're cutting that particular frequency. So for this one over here on this side, this is the lowest frequency. It's 100 hertz. So down the bass, if I want to cut the bass out, I can slide that control down, it'll remove the bass from the signal. Or conversely, if I take it up, it'll actually boost it. Unlike a filter type control like we've got on the guitar where it's just cutting frequencies, this, because it's powered, it's an active circuit, we're able to boost frequencies as well. Now this particular pedal, it's going from 100 hertz, 300 hertz, 1 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz and 5 kilohertz. That's all the frequency ranges that we can adjust. And over on the side here we've got a volume slider, and again this has got a center notch on it, so I can cut or I can boost the overall volume of the guitar. So this actually makes this quite a powerful pedal, and there's lots of things we can do with it. What I've done is I've built a little mini board down here, so I'm going to take the pedal, hook that up to that, and we'll just take a look at what it can do, and then I'll show you some use cases for the pedal. So there's a little mini board set up with the EQ pedal and a couple of drive pedals I'm going to use for some demonstrations in this video. I couldn't find my pedal board tape, so hopefully the EQ pedal is not going to wobble around too much. So I'm just playing the Thompson custom guitar here, Damasio tone zone at the bridge and the Damasio path at the neck into the clean channel on the amp with a little bit of delay and reverb. So that's with clean tone. EQ pedal here, everything's flat, volume control is in the center as well. So if we kick that in, absolutely no difference to the sound because everything's neutral, it's not going to do anything. So the first use case I want to talk about actually isn't using the EQ element of the EQ pedal at all. Let's take a look at what we've got here. I've got the EQ pedal on and it's flat, so it's not doing anything. And I've got also in the chain, I've got the Digitech Bad Monkey overdrive. The gain set to about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Levels about in unity, and the EQ, importantly, the EQ on the pedal itself is flat. So that gives us quite a nice overdrive sound. Now these pickups are on the high side in terms of output. What I'm going to do though is a quick guitar swap to my custom shop Strat. Okay, so we're back with the Strat, and the most important thing here, these are single coil pickups, but they're much lower output than on Thompson. These are vintage output pickups, it's like 50s kind of a voice to them. So with the same settings on the pedal and everything. So obviously this is sounding like a Strat, it's got that single coil voice, but the other thing that you immediately notice is there's less overdrive going on. And that's because the signal that's going into the gain section on the overdrive pedal is lower. There's less signal coming out of these vintage output single coil pickups than there was from the hotter output on the humbucker in the bridge of the Thompson. So what can we do? Well, like I said, we've got the EQ pedal here. Let's forget about the EQ element and just look at the volume slider, and we can use that to give us a little bit more oomph. So the guitar's going straight into the EQ pedal. If I turn that up, and remember this is an active circuit, so it's able to boost, it's able to give me more signal in the chain. So this is the sound just with all the controls flat. And if I turn the volume up, so it's a bit louder, but you will notice that there's a bit more overdrive there because I'm able to compensate for the lower output of these pickups by boosting the signal through the EQ pedal. Okay, so that's our first use case. I'm going to knock the volume down and talk about how we use the EQ pedal to voice the guitar though. Let's do the really basic use case of just boosting the bass. So that's the bass frequencies boosted. So if I play something like that, that's much fatter. That's really rumbling. I've got the amp up a little bit higher than I normally would, and I can hear things starting to rattle in the room. That's a nice thing, even on a clean tone. And similarly, we can leave the bass neutral and just boost the treble. So that's a bit more bite to the sound. A really useful use for an EQ pedal is something more like this. Boosting the mids like that is really useful for, like, if you want to keep the EQ pedal off during a song, and then when it comes to your solo, you just want an extra bit punch, something to help you cut through. Yeah, it's just got that little bit of lift, so it helps you to cut through the mix a little bit. And obviously there's that volume control over on the right hand side, so if you wanted a volume boost as well, you can do that. Okay, so everything flat, and just going to go straight to the bridge pickup on the Strat. Now I find the bridge pickup on this guitar is a little bit on the bitey side, it's a little bit too trebly. It's a nice enough sound, but say just a wee bit too sharp for me. And you will find other Strats that have much more trebly pickups, particularly in the bridge setting. And this is where the EQ pedal can help us, because if we want something that's a little bit fatter, maybe even something that's more akin to the fat sound of a humbucker, but we don't have a humbucker equipped guitar with us, we can use the EQ pedal. So let's look at that, and let's turn the treble down slightly, and let's boost up some of the bass. So we've got a curve that looks like that, and I'll take the level up just a smidge. So this is the sound without the EQ pedal. And with. Yes, that just fattens the sound out quite nicely. And I've heard people give you the argument about, oh, you don't need to keep changing pickups in guitars. you can get plenty enough variety from an EQ pedal. And actually, they're onto something. If you've only got one guitar, you don't want to have lots of guitars with different pickups or anything like that. An EQ pedal with lots of different sliders, so lots of fine tunability across the frequency range. You know, you can boost the bass, cut the treble, tweak the mids, all that sort of stuff. They are an incredibly powerful pedal. So that's, like I said, the number one use case is about shaping the sound of the guitar. In this case particularly, being able to take a Strat sound that's maybe a little bit thin, a little bit too bright, and being able to boost the bass, cut the treble ever so slightly, and just give us a sound that sounds more fat, more full, without having to go to the bother of changing guitars. So in terms of tone shaping, that's what an EQ pedal is very useful for. Now, I said this was particularly a video about pedal order, so let's move on to that and think about how the pedal is going to work in conjunction with, say in this case, some overdrive pedals. Now, we talk about pedal order, and the general consensus, the general accepted wisdom for effects pedal order is the first thing you change, like your filter pedals, like wahs and so on, then compressors, then drive pedals, then into the preamp stage of the amp. Then in the effects loop you have your time-based pedals, so you would have your chorus, phasers, flanges, then your delays, then your reverbs. That's a general rule of thumb. Delayed, reverbed, distorted sound sounds better than distorted, delayed and reverbed clean sound. That's the general accepted opinion. I know people will do things differently and it suits their style of music, it suits what they want to do. I saw somebody's rig last week and they actually had a reverb pedal, I think it was first or second in the chain, and then had overdrives after it, and that suited their use cases perfectly well. But the generally accepted wisdom is that. Where does an EQ pedal fit in that accepted wisdom? And the fact is, there isn't a standard place to put an EQ pedal. It depends on how you want to use the EQ pedal, what effect you want to get with it. So let's go back to this use case where we've got it in conjunction with the Bad Monkey. I'm just going to dial in an EQ sound, an EQ setting on the pedal. So I've dialed in something here. We've got the volume set neutral, but we've got the EQ control set to give us a mid boost. So guitar on its own. Yes, it's just fattening the mid-range out a little bit using the EQ pedal. So let's see how that sounds with the overdrive pedal. First, without the EQ. Then kick the EQ pedal in. So you can hear the difference with and without the pedal. With, we're boosting the mid-range into the pedal, into the drive. Now the Bad Monkey is a bit of a tube screamer-ish circuit in there, so it's not a flat, transparent sort of overdrive. It's going to boost the mid-range a little bit. So what we're doing there is we're boosting the mid-range as it comes out of the guitar, putting it into an overdrive pedal that's doing all of its overdrive goodness, and tweaking the sound and boosting the mids a little bit more, and that gives us the sound that we got there. But what happens if we swap the pedal order around and we actually put the EQ after the overdrive? So let's hear how that sounds with the EQ after the overdrive. So it's a different voice, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying one is necessarily better than the other or worse than the other. It's different. What we're doing is we're giving a certain voice to the overdrive pedal. The overdrive pedal's doing its thing and we get a signal out of it. In one case, we're adjusting the input voice to the EQ, to the overdrive pedal by using the EQ in front. The other case, we're using the EQ pedal after the overdrive, and for all we've got the same EQ curve, the same settings, we're getting slightly different sound. And the reason is the frequencies that come out of the overdrive pedal, you know, they're boosting the mid-range a little bit. So if we're saying something going into the guitar has relatively little mid-range, and we put it into the overdrive pedal and it boosts the mid-range for us, there's a lot more mids there to be boosted when it comes out into the EQ pedal, and the EQ pedal does its thing. When we put the EQ pedal in front, yes, we're adding mid-range into the EQ pedal for it to boost, but the relative amount of boost that we're giving to the mid-range is different. It pays not to dissect this too much, but the important thing to bear in mind is where you place the EQ pedal will affect the sound. So don't think, oh, this is an EQ sound that works, that's it. Experiment with where you put the EQ pedal in the chain, because it's going to work its magic differently depending on what frequency range you put into it and how you got the EQ pedal set. So there was a really simple demonstration, putting it in front of or after an overdrive pedal, and we get some completely different sounds. And you think about how you want it to adjust the sound. You know, you would set the controls on the EQ pedal accordingly. Okay, that's overdrive. Now we want to move on and have a look at that other pedal that we've got on the board, the distortion. But for that though, I think I'm going to switch back to the Thompson. So back with the Thompson, because this has got a bridge humbucker, and I think this is a better pickup to demonstrate the distortion pedal with. The other pedal down on the board here, yes, it's that Arion SDI1 distortion pedal. I've done a separate video about this one. I'll put a link to it in the information section down there. It's a really interesting pedal in that it's stereo distortion, really flexible. And the problem I've got with it though is it tends to be a wee bit on the fizzy side sometimes. So as you can see, the settings I've got here, we've got the level at about unity, tone is set in the middle, and the distortion is about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So we're giving it some beans. This is the clean sound of the guitar. Yeah, it's a full-on distortion sound, but even with the tone neutral, we're not trying to boost do anything clever with the treble here. It's still coming through a little bit fizzy. EQ pedal to the rescue. And here the pedal placement, think about what we're doing. We're wanting to control the sound, what comes out of the pedal. So I'm leaving the EQ pedal after the distortion. So what I can do here is go down to the pedal, and let's just bring those treble frequencies down a little bit. Maybe just fatten things up. We'll boost the bass ever so slightly, and hear how that sounds. Yeah, so we've still got that full fat distortion, but we're just taking some of the treble off of it. It's getting less like bees in a jam jar, and more like it sounds a bit more organic to me. Again, your personal preference for what sounds like a good distortion sound may be different to mine, but hopefully this gives you a demonstration of what you can do using an EQ pedal to perhaps tame an otherwise tricky to use distortion pedal. For the sake of comparison though, why don't we take that EQ pedal, we'll keep the same settings, but we'll move it to the start of the signal chain, so we're tweaking the EQ before it goes into the distortion pedal. Okay, so here we go, distortion pedal on its own. And with the EQ pedal in front of it. So you can hear the difference in sound there. It's tamed it a little bit by having less treble going in, because there's less treble in the signal for the distortion pedal to work with. but the distortion adds so many like upper harmonics. It's what a distortion pedal does. It's still got a bit of a fizzy sound coming out of it. Having less treble going in means less treble coming out, so having the EQ pedal in front of the distortion pedal does take some of the fizz out, but the effect isn't as dramatic as having it after it when all the treble frequencies are there for us to filter out, if you see what I mean. Again, there's no right way or wrong way to do it. Your mileage may vary. What your personal preference for a good guitar sound is will possibly differ from mine, but hopefully that gives you an idea. So there's a few ideas for how you can use an EQ pedal and why it matters where you put it in the signal chain. There's lots of other options about putting it in the effects loop, putting it, maybe after your chorus pedals but before your delays and reverbs. All sorts of options. If you want to consider getting an EQ pedal, then hopefully that's giving you some ideas for how you might want to experiment with it and incorporate it as part of your signal chain. And as aside from just an EQ pedal, we showed it just using it as a flat EQ and as a signal boost. So maybe that might send you down the rabbit hole of looking at using boost pedals, means to either equalize the level between a single coil guitar and a high output humbucker, or giving you something that you can use to give you a bit more of a volume boost for going into solos, that sort of thing. Lots of food for thought, and hopefully there's something in this video that's inspired you and will get you go out and investigate this for yourself. Okay, hopefully you found that useful. If you did, please click like down there. If you really enjoyed the video and you want to see other things that are posted on the channel, then please click subscribe, which is also down there, and click the bell icon next to it. That way you get notified of any new videos as and when I post them. You're welcome to leave a comment. Problem is, I don't always get notified by YouTube when people leave comments on videos, so if there's something specific you want to ask me, whether it's about guitar, playing, effects, pedals, music theory, anything at all, you're better off going here. There's a form, you can fill that form in and the question will come directly to me and get around to answering your question in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.